The NBA trade deadline has come and gone, and now the buyout market is heating up. Who are some of the players who could pop free of their current teams and be available to snag in free agency? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel and turn on those notifications as well. We're going to keep you up to date on everything going on around the NBA. Joining me is Donnie Freeman. Donnie, hell of a trade deadline, maybe the greatest trade deadline ever that we've seen in the NBA.
I mean, anything you want. That deadline had it. It even had a rescinded deal. That's a high caliber rescinded deal. That's kind of crazy, man. So yeah, absolutely one of the craziest deadlines. Post down below in the comments if you guys can think of one that was crazier. Maybe there's something that I can't think of, but to me, it's top one right now.
Yeah, I think this one does indeed take the cake here. Let's talk a little bit about the buyout market. So now that the trade deadline is come and gone, teams will start looking to buy out veteran players. And typically, teams do not do this ahead of the deadline because they don't want to buy out a player, have that money sitting on their books as dead money, and then find out, oh, shoot, we could have used that salary in a trade. So it's this time of year when the buyout market really picks up. And I put this out over on X. Generally, buyout candidates have three qualities. They're a veteran player on a bad team and in the final year of their contract. If any one of those three conditions is not met, especially if they're not in the final year of their contract, they're usually not a buyout candidate. I say usually because, of course, there are always exceptions, but in general, you have to have those three qualities to be a buyout candidate. So my front office show co-host Keith Smith put together a list of players to keep an eye on the buyout market. So I want to get into that today. Let's take a look. First and foremost, though, these teams are not allowed to sign any player who makes more than $12.8 million because that is the mid-level exception. This is a restriction for any team above the first-tier apron. So the Boston Celtics, the Denver Nuggets, the Lakers, the Bucks, the Wolves, the Knicks, and the Suns are all not landing spots for any player that was making more than $12.8 million before they were bought out. Donnie, I would like to see that. This is another restriction in the new CBA. I would like to see moved to a tier 2 apron restriction because this is enough teams to where there's going to be some guys who maybe normally would pursue a buyout to now not do that because there isn't a landing spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, these are typically the buyout guys like to try to target these teams that are in playoff or championship contention that they can go on and, probably play a big role on it and make a name for themselves and earn their next contract. And this is really limiting, as you see. Some of these teams here would love to get some of the guys that could potentially be on the market, but they're just not going to be able to because they're going to make too much money. And I would, like you said, like to see this restriction just moved entirely to the second apron. There's a number of things in this that you could really make that same sentiment about. And I don't know if they ever will amend it, but that would be nice because it's kind of restrictive, like you were saying, 12.8 specifically. So.
Well, I don't think they're going to change the new CBA based on the trade deadline we just had. Doesn't give them a lot of incentive to change it. So let's take a look at the list of players. But first, quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks, Daily Fantasy Sports. Prize Picks does a phenomenal job. So much fun to play. And if you use our code Bulletin, you can get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 played. Great deal. Go click the link in the description down below. Donnie, we've got Luka's debut coming up for the Lakers this evening. 28 points for Luka. Should we just smash more and assume he's going to have a big debut?
I really am hopeful he drops like 40, but part of me is like, maybe he's going to be feeling things out. I don't know. That's a tricky one, actually. I don't know. I'll just say more because he's Luka. That one's tricky, though, because what if he's filling it out?
Let's be optimistic there, and we'll say more on that one. Trae Young just got named to the All-Star team. 25 points. I actually think he goes less than this because it's against Orlando. Their defense is good. I know he just got named to the All-Star team as a replacement for Giannis, but I'm going to say less than 25 points for Trae. And then let's take another look here. Let's go with would you rather do Luka 42 and a half points, rebounds, and assists?
I'd do that. That one's easier.
Okay, let's do that one. Always good to take a look at all your options out here. And again, these are just the highly played options right now. There's plenty of others for you guys to get into when you start exploring Prize Picks. Let's go with how about Austin Reeves just dropped 45 points, 28 points, rebounds, and assists. Not to stick with too many Lakers, but I have a feeling there'll be a bit of a feeling out process. So we'll be non-homers here, and I'll say less for Austin.
Okay, that's fair.
Although he did just drop 45.
Right. I don't know. Maybe say
all
less
right,
on
let's
LeBron.
screw it. Let's be homers.
Okay.
Be homers. There we go. All right. So if you guys want to follow along with us, you can see some of these decisions are difficult ones, but if you want to play along with us, you can. This play, a $10 play would get you $50. Go check out Prize Picks. Use the link in that description down below. All right, let's jump back over to our buyout candidates. Who could wind up hitting the buyout market? And some of these players already have. Marvin Bagley, $12.5 million. So he would be eligible to sign with any of those tier 1 apron teams. Marvin Bagley could get bought out by the Grizzlies. The Grizz could keep him, but they've got plenty of depth in their front court already. They've got Brandon Clark. They've got Zach Edey. They have, of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. Wouldn't shock me if Marvin Bagley, the player somehow taken before Luka in the draft, winds up getting bought out here.
Yeah, unfortunate for Bagley because he's never really turned into what the Kings, I guess, saw in him. It's just a weird draft when you go back, when you bring up the context of it all. But he's never really turned into that guy. And this year, he was with Washington earlier, right? He wasn't able to really play or do anything, dealing with some injuries, not really able to get minutes. And I believe he's on Memphis now. And yeah, he seems like a prime guy to get bought out. And I mean, he profiles as somebody you could try to put in the system, 6'10", 240, young guy, vertical threat, sure. But I don't know. He's a tricky one.
I mean, on the Wizards this last season, 19 games, averaged less than 9 minutes. 5 points, 3 rebounds.
Yeah, that's
the season before. He at least had 8 boards and 13 points per game, but it's not been a great season for Marvin Bagley.
Was that last season? The 19 games? Was that last season or this season?
This season.
Oh, okay.
This season was 19 games. Last season he only played 24 games, so he's not well for the Wizards. Sorry, in total he played 50 games, just played 24 for the Wizards last season. Bojan Bogdanovic has not played this season, not eligible to sign with any of the tier 1 apron teams or above. But Bojan Bogdanovic hasn't played this season. Maybe a team that needs a shooter could look to him. But again, the fact that he hasn't played, probably not going to make him that exciting of an option. Certainly not the player that he was just a couple of years ago. And this is the danger when players start to get close to that age cliff.
Yeah, we know what he is, right? He's a good glue guy. But he is a bit older, dealing with injuries. I would be very wary of that. But if he's able to get healthy, I mean, another guy that's worth taking a flyer on if you're looking at it. But tricky guy to try to plug into a system if he's not healthy at 36 years old. He's gonna probably also be a step slow for a while if he ever recovers that, because I think the injury was a foot injury or something like that. I would be very wary of that. But again, he's one of the most proven guys on this list so far.
Malcolm Brogdon would certainly be interesting, but the Wizards, from my understanding, I don't think the Wizards are actually going to buy him out. They're going to keep him to potentially use his bird rights this next summer. But Malcolm Brogdon would get a ton of interest if he is able to secure a buyout from the Wizards. $22.5 million, veteran point guard, just very steady, can play on or off the ball, versatility there, has a long history of injuries. But with all of these guys, if you're getting up for a minimum off the buyout market, teams would be swarming if Malcolm Brogdon could somehow get free of Washington.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't get moved, to be honest. So, like you said, he's somebody that I think a lot of teams would be in on as a backup point guard. I don't know that you can get a better option on the market right now. And
another player that would get a ton of interest, Bruce Brown. The Pelicans are probably going to keep his bird rights and not actually buy him out. But because they do want to win starting next season. But if somehow Bruce Brown gets bought out, he would be up there with Brogdon as a player that teams would be all over. Again, $23 million, not an option for those first tier apron teams, but I mean, he would be a phenomenal get for anybody if he gets bought out. But right now, that does seem unlikely.
Oh, yeah. He may very well be the best possible option if he gets bought out on this entire list. As somebody that does have playoff experience, championship experience, and can fit into most systems, doesn't need the ball, can shoot a little bit, defend a good bit, rebounds for you. He's a nice glue guy you can plug in for sure.
Torrey Craig, we already know what happened. He signed a deal with Boston, and so he will be with the Celtics at the end of their bench, so we don't need to spend too much time on him. Seth Curry, He's 34 years old, but I mean, his last name is Curry. You know, the man can shoot the ball. Teams are always looking for shooting. So this would be one to keep an eye on. The Hornets, they've made a number of moves. Might they decide to part with Seth Curry? If they do, I think he'll have some interest out there on the market. Some team that's contending will say, you know what, we can always use shooting off the bench, and they'll pick him up.
Yeah, I was just looking at his numbers. He's shooting 47% from three this year. On only 2.5 attempts because he doesn't get a lot of opportunity, minutes or otherwise. But 47%, that speaks volumes. I mean, and also he's a career 43% shooter, so it's not like that's a blip on the radar. So yeah, if you need shooting, there probably isn't a better guy out there to get.
Reggie Jackson, he did wind up getting waived by the Washington Wizards for a team looking for a veteran point guard. I guess you could do worse. You know, his best days are behind him. I'd certainly be waiting to see if some of these other guys on the list wind up getting bought out. I would much prefer, obviously, Malcolm Brogdon to Reggie Jackson, but another veteran who could potentially be out there on the market.
Yeah, the first thing that kind of jumped out to me on a side note is that he's 35 now. My goodness.
How did that happen?
Man, time flies. It feels like he's one of those guys that's been around for forever, though. So I guess it makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, Reggie has not been able to keep up with the efficiency over the last handful of years here. And I think that's probably the main thing that's plaguing him. And it could be because he's getting up there in age. Statistically, he has some good production, just raw number wise 12 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. So, you know, he can play a little bit for you out there, but he's not somebody that I'm going to jump on immediately unless I'm looking for a good, probably third string point guard at this point.
Trey Jones, the Chicago Bulls have roughly 57 point guards on their roster right now. And rather than trade Lonzo Ball, they actually gave him an extension. So Jones is a backup quality point guard. I don't know. Like Chicago, they're so weird. They should be all in on rebuilding, and I think they are. The Zach LaVine trade helps with that. But then why sign Lonzo Ball to the extension? I can't count on Chicago to do whatever it is you think they're going to do. Chicago is the team I think you have the least certainty that they're actually going to do it.
I'd assume that they gave Lonzo that contract to try to trade him.
Probably the second year is non-guaranteed on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's probably similar to the Jonas deal earlier this year, where they're like trying to trade him. On the topic of Trey, he's an awesome young point guard. I think he just needs more opportunity. I think he'll really blossom in a situation like that. That's just not Chicago. So, and I think this is the last year of his deal, of course. And $9 million going to be on the market. So I don't know if you need to expedite this all too much if you're Chicago. You've got a lot of guards, unless he's asking for a buyout. I don't know that you should or even be looking to do this, but I think that a team that could potentially get him in need of a point guard for a while here, I think that he can be a good pickup for you.
Misic with the Phoenix Suns. I don't know. The Suns are going to buy one out. They do have both Misic and Monte Morris right now at the point guard position. They could wind up moving on from one of these guys. They're picking him up in that Cody Martin trade in the Nurkic deal. So we'll see ultimately what the Suns do there, but they could move on from maybe one of their point guards, whether it's Misic or Monte Morris. I don't think either guy is going to get that much attention on the market, but we'll see. These guys are on veteran, especially Monte Morris on veteran minimum deal as it is. So maybe he gets cut loose. Maybe it's Misic, but the Suns need to figure stuff out and just try to make a run. Whichever guy they think is going to give them the best chance, regardless of what the salary is, that's who they need to keep.
Yeah, I like Misic as more of like a traditional point guard. He's really good at setting guys up, but Morris is a little bit younger, and I think he could still probably plug into a team that needs a guard. But for Phoenix, they've got a glut of these guys. So like you said, they need to figure things out.
I know this name has popped up a lot. Chris Paul. He's not going to get bought out. I don't see it anyway. The Spurs love Chris Paul. He works with De'Aaron Fox. Yeah, they're starting him. I don't think this is realistic. If he does somehow pop loose, then he would be a very attractive player that a lot of teams would be in on. But the Spurs seem to be really happy with what they have in Chris Paul. So I would be shocked if he was a guy who actually got free here.
Yeah, Chris Paul's been really good. We don't talk enough about his longevity as a small guard. At 39 years old, still be starting on an NBA team. Chris Paul, I don't think he's going anywhere, and he's been pretty good for them.
Impressive stuff. And then we've got Cam Reddish, not with the Charlotte Hornets, back with the Lakers. It does seem like the Lakers are probably going to waive at least one of Cam Reddish or Christian Wood in order to try to add another big now that the Mark Williams deal fell through. So Cam Reddish could be somebody who does get waived. And maybe there's a team out there that wants to give him another shot as a defensive wing player. If it's Christian Wood, maybe that would be a sign that Wood is not coming back this season. He's been out all year due to a knee injury. Donnie, did you know we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the last time Christian Wood played an NBA game?
Man, is he gonna pull a Vando where he gets like 357 or something days?
Right? It's Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day will be 1 year since Christian Wood played in an NBA game. So the Lakers could wind up keeping Cam and moving on from Christian Wood, but he would be, I think Cam Reddish might get a look from a team, just somebody looking for a defensive player. But of course, we know the shooting can be, well, a bit streaky at best.
Yeah, well, with Cam, I think with him, if he's out there as a defensive guy, like you were saying, I think he's got good value. He can play make a little bit, but the shooting is such a black hole for him that teams don't really often guard him. So I think even if he stays on the Lakers, whatever, I think that you're only deploying him in small bursts as a perimeter defender. Maybe that's about it. So maybe if a team needs that, then sure.
And then we've got Josh Richardson with the Utah Jazz. He's going to hit the market. I think there'll be some interest in him, kind of a versatile guard, can do a little bit of everything out there. And the Jazz we know what their season's about. Their season is about taking. And I don't think Josh Richardson will stay on the market if he hits the market. I think someone will pick him up.
He's historically been a decent 3-and-D guy. He's just not been great, I believe, over the last couple of years, and hasn't had a lot of opportunity to get out there and play. Sometimes the shooting is a bit up and down. He's only played 8 games this year, and he's in those games shot 27% from 3. I mean, that's not the craziest indicator because he's only played in 8 games, but the fact he's been unavailable to play those games does matter. But 3-and-D wings, there's not a lot of them, especially on the market. So in theory, he's one of the few guys that you could maybe pick up that is an NBA vet that you should know what you're getting from him.
And he has officially been waived, so he's out there on the market. Ben Simmons already done, going to the Clippers. Did get a buyout from the Nets and lands with the Clippers. Good location for him. Daniel Tice, maybe somebody our Lakers will take a look at, although he has received some interest overseas as well. That's something he could do. But the Pelicans moved off of him, went to OKC. OKC has waived him so they can give AJ Mitchell a contract. And now, if I'm Daniel Tice, I'm waiting to see, hey, do the Lakers want me to be their guy coming in? And if not, maybe I do explore those options overseas.
Yeah, I thought he would have been a good fit in OKC personally, but they must really like AJ, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, absolutely, there are going to be some teams in need of a big, and he's going to be one of the best ones on the market.
PJ Tucker and his impressive shoe collection. He's 39 years old. I'll be honest. I think he's done. I just think he's done. I hope I'm wrong and he can still play, but the Clippers sent him away from the team for the season. They finally moved him. He went to the Toronto Raptors ultimately after a series of trades, but I don't see him contributing this year.
I wonder if he's somebody that a team can pick up as an end of bench like vibes guy.
Sure. You know, the Udonis Haslem role.
Right. Like a veteran locker room guy, maybe.
Then we've got DeLon Wright, solid defensive point guard. Maybe that somebody could add if he does wind up getting waived. But again, I think there's other guards that we've discussed on this list that I would rather have. And then one to keep an eye on overseas, Lonnie Walker can get out of his contract, has to do it by February 18th, but has not shot the ball well, as noted here. 39% from the field, rounding up to get there in 18 EuroLeague games and just 34% from 3. That's not good against lower competition, especially. So we'll see if an NBA team does give him a shot. But I know a lot of fans remember how he's played at various points of his NBA career, particularly that playoff series with the Lakers against the Warriors. So it wouldn't shock me if he were to get a look, but a little bit discouraging that he's not playing better against overseas competition.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do wonder if some of that's just them specifically keying in on him or things
Sure.
like that. I do wonder about that, but still, regardless, a lot of guys go overseas and they just light it up anyway. So I think that we've seen enough of Lonnie in the NBA to know what he is for the most part. And if you get him in a system on a team, I think he'd be able to provide value for you. So I'm not really too worried about the shooting percentages personally, and I think he'd be a nice guard for any team to try to get. And the only thing about him is that I did a video on him on the channel about a month ago, and I dug into his numbers. It was pretty interesting how like ball dominant he is. He he absolutely basically can't play without the ball. So you kind of want to get a guy, or if you're looking for him, you're looking for a guy to kind of light it up for you off the bench, probably as a ball handler creator, not so much of an off ball guy. So
Well, those are some of the options we may see on the buyout market. Let me throw another name out there. Jaden Springer wound up getting loose. That would be another defensive guard for teams to keep an eye on. Then, of course, there's some veterans out there on the market as well. Mo Bamba, somebody else, maybe a big man that's out there on the market. But the buyout market will be interesting to watch in the NBA this year. I don't think it's going to be as robust as in previous years due to those teams that cannot sign a player making more than that $12.8 million. I think it'll be a little bit more sparse on the market as players won't push to get bought out because there aren't as many landing spots. But still, should be an opportunity for some teams to pick up a few guys, maybe for the end of their bench, maybe as part of their rotation piece in order to get them ready for the postseason. But everybody give us your thoughts. Who do you think teams should pursue on the buyout market? Who stands out? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe right here to the channel. Till next time, stay safe and see you.